On Chinese New Year's Eve, my mother's best friend came to our home to reveal the truth. The son my mother had raised for 18 years was the illegitimate child of her and my father. My grandmother resorted to hysterical tactics, forcing my mother to divorce. My father declared that he had endured this life long enough and begged my mother to set him free. My mother seemed completely devastated. Yet little did they know, everything was part of her meticulously crafted plan. You see, my mother had been reborn. I was an adopted child. When I first entered this family, there was already a young boy, my so-called elder brother. My mother introduced him as Su Wei, half a year older than me. He sat in my grandmother's arms, his wide eyes fixed on me, filled with curiosity. My grandmother lifted her eyelids slightly, casting a disdainful glance at me. "What's the use of raising a girl?" she muttered dismissively. That single glance, laden with undisguised contempt, sent a shiver down my spine. Instinctively, I cowered behind my mother, clutching her leg tightly. My mother scooped me up, showering me with affectionate kisses. "This child and I are destined," she cooed. I took an instant liking to her. My father, with a cigarette dangling from his lips and his eyes glued to a live streaming video of an internet celebrity, shrugged nonchalantly. "If you want to keep her, then do it. It's not like we can't afford it." Because I was adopted, my grandmother refused to let me take the family surname. She boasted that centuries ago, the Su surname had been the imperial surname. "Why should some random girl with an unknown background bear our surname?" she scoffed. Thus I took my mother's surname Chen. My name Chen Shi carried the profound meaning of vitality, radiance, and hope. I was 5 years old that year. My mother had a close friend named Liu, who had been her classmate since middle school. Later, while my mother went on to attend university, Liu, who failed the college entrance exam, found a job in a factory. When my mother got married, Liu was her sole bridesmaid. Eventually, Liu rented an apartment in a neighborhood near ours. The stark contrast was evident. Our home was a luxurious villa, while hers was a dilapidated walk-up building with a 50-year-old history. Liu often stayed at our place and was especially close to my grandmother. One day she accidentally let slip a startling secret. She was the other woman in a relationship. My mother tried to persuade her to end this ill-fated affair, but my grandmother held a diametrically opposed view. She cupped Liu's face tenderly and said, "What does it matter if she's the other woman? As long as they're in love, that's all that counts. With a beauty like Yaya, any man would fall head over heels for her. Which man could resist her charm?" she said, casting a meaningful glance at my father. My father, flustered, averted his gaze and buried himself in his phone. My mother, sipping on imported black tea, let out a derisive snort, speaking up for Liu. "A man who makes you his mistress doesn't deserve your love. He's nothing but scum." The atmosphere in the room turned palpable. My hot-tempered grandmother couldn't contain her anger. "Who are you calling scum?" she shouted. My mother looked taken aback. "Why are you so worked up? Did I say something wrong? Look at you getting all riled up," she said, suppressing a laugh. "People might think Liu is your father's mistress," she added playfully. My grandmother, as if her secret had been exposed, faltered. "Oh, forgive my temper. I'm just getting old and emotional," she mumbled. Liu, avoiding eye contact, forced a laugh. "Don't be silly. Mr. Su would never look at me that way." She sidled up to my grandmother, draping an arm around her shoulders while stealing glances at my father. "But don't worry. His mother approves of me. I'm bound to be his legitimate wife sooner or later." My mother was so shocked that she spilled her tea, her sense of morality shaken to its core. The mother not only doesn't stop her son from having an affair but actually supports it? Yeah, think twice. What kind of mother would raise such a despicable man? "Both mother and son are no good," she added, causing an awkward silence to descend upon the room. My father's face turned beet red, beads of sweat forming on his forehead. My grandmother glared at my mother with hatred in her eyes, as if she could devour her on the spot. Liu interjected, "Xiaobei, don't be so harsh. He treats me well." My grandmother nodded in agreement. "That's right. Yaya has good judgment. She knows a good man when she sees one." Then she took Liu's hand. "Yaya, come help me see if this new dress I bought suits me." After my grandmother and Liu left the room, my father sidled up to my mother, trying to placate her. "No matter how beautiful Liu is, she pales in comparison to my wife." My mother arched an eyebrow, a faint smile playing on her lips, but her eyes remained cold. I looked up at her, too young to understand, but I clung to her tightly, following my instincts. My grandmother doted on my brother excessively. When he tripped and fell, she would smack the floor, scolding it for being bad. At the amusement park, when my brother snatched a toy from another child, she would berate the child, accusing him of lacking manners and not knowing how to share. She treated my brother like a precious gem, afraid he would get hurt at the slightest touch. Once my brother took a fancy to a toy, but my mother refused, pointing out that we already had 10 similar ones at home. My brother, in a fit of tantrum, flopped down on the ground kicking and screaming. My grandmother, her heart melting at the sight, insisted on buying it for him. When my mother tried to discipline my brother, my grandmother vehemently objected, locking horns with her. It's just a child's nature. We can afford a measly toy. We could buy him 10,000 if he wanted. Are you deliberately trying to upset my precious grandson? She accused. My mother's eyes welled up with tears. She threw herself into my father's arms. Honey, Mom always misunderstands me. Xiaowei is my son too. My father stole a nervous glance at Liu before gently pushing my mother away. Don't think too much. You know how hot-tempered my mother is. I'm sure she didn't mean it. Then he led my mother away, his arm around her shoulder. At the same time, he managed to evade Liu's piercing gaze. Honey, look, Mom has been so worried about Xiaowei that she's been beside herself. Why don't we just let her handle things? I think Xiaowei gets along really well with Liu. Maybe we should ask her to help out too. My mother feigned weichu. Since you don't want my involvement, I won't interfere from now on. Seeing that his goal was achieved, my father let out a sigh of relief and comforted her. It's not that you're not doing a good job. I just shimtung you. With one more person to share the burden, you can focus on your career. From now on, just focus on spoiling the child and buying him nice things. I promise Xiaowei will be closer to you than to my mother. My mother nodded in agreement, but as she lowered her head to wipe away what seemed like tears, I could clearly see that her eyes were dry. True to her word, my mother bought my brother the latest Nintendo Switch and iPad. My grandmother was overjoyed and even praised my mother for once. She also hinted that a computer would be the perfect addition. Without hesitation, my mother had a top-of-the-line Alienware computer delivered the next day. My brother was so excited that he jumped up and down on the sofa, letting out shrill screams that drew my father out. Pretending to be pained, he grabbed my mother's hand and said, I just asked you to buy some nice things, but there's no need to go overboard like this. My mother smiled sweetly. As long as the child likes it, that's all that matters. From then on, my brother was obsessed with gaming, spending all his time either on the game console or the computer. He became so engrossed that my grandmother even had to feed him at the table. My mother signed me up for art and piano classes and asked my brother if he wanted to join. He waved her off, lollipop in mouth, scoffing. Those are for little girls. They're no match for my video games. My mother stroked my head affectionately. You're different. You're so smart. These classes are perfect for you. You have a gift for painting and playing the piano. She then hired the best piano teacher in the city, whose hourly rate was even higher than the cost of my brother's computer. My mother didn't bat an eyelid when she paid. When I was 8, my brother found out I was adopted and called me a wild child with no home. I ran to my mother in tears. She hugged me tightly and asked, Do you think I'm any less of a mother than others? I shook my head. I'm happier than most kids. I love every day I spend with you. My mother pinched my nose playfully. You're not a wild child. You're my precious child. How you came into our family doesn't matter. What matters is who you are. We can't choose how we enter this world, but we can choose how we live our lives and make them meaningful. I didn't fully understand at the time, but I knew one thing for sure. My mother loved me and I was happy by her side. Liu practically lived at our house, either binge watching dramas or doing face masks with my mother. She often sighed. Chun Xiaobei, I envy you so much. You were born into a wealthy family. Your parents left you a big villa and a successful company. And your husband is a real catch. You get to be a rich housewife and not have to worry about anything. Lying on the sofa with a face mask on, my mother replied. You could have that too. Just get your man to marry you. Liu huffed. It's easier said than done. His mother is standing in the way. My mother laughed and consoled her. Then just wait until she gets old. He'll marry you then. Liu's expression darkened. I'm afraid I'll be old by then too. My mother sighed. Even the most beautiful women grow old. Women need to take good care of themselves. Suddenly she sat up. Oh, I heard about this new product. It can lighten your skin tone by 1 shade in a single course of treatment. Forget about face masks. Medical aesthetics is the way to go. Come on, I'll treat you. Liu hesitated. Medical aesthetics is so expensive. My mother shook her head, cupping Liu's face. Once a woman hits 35, she starts to age rapidly. If you don't take care of yourself now, it'll be too late. Especially since you're in your situation. You need to look your best, or else your man will leave you. Seeing Liu still hesitant, my mother waved her hand dismissively. Don't worry. I'll pay. If you refuse, I'll be mad. Liu immediately beamed and followed along. Before leaving, my mother told me and my brother to finish our homework. My brother mumbled a half-hearted okay. His eyes glued to the TV screen as his fingers flew across the game controller. Half a year later, my grandmother, claiming to feel sorry that Liu didn't have a child of her own, arranged for my brother to run Liu as his godmother. My mother, sipping imported black tea, smiled sweetly. I have no objections. Whatever Mom decides. After the arrangement, my brother said, Now I have another mother who loves me. My real mom can retire early. Liu hooked her arm through my mother's and laughed. With me as your rival, you'll have to love Xiaowei even more. To distinguish between them, my brother started calling Liu mommy. And soon after, he began calling my father daddy. My mother just smiled it off, but a sense of unease began to grow in my young heart. When we were little, my brother and I got along well, But under my grandmother's indulgence, he became increasingly domineering and selfish. We were in the same grade but different classes. My brother forbade me to reveal our relationship at school. Whenever we met, he would just ignore me and walk away. This actually saved me a lot of trouble, except that he copied my homework every day. In the higher grades, my grandmother wanted to make me do housework. My mother looked up from her pile of documents. We're not short of servants. This is a crucial time for the primary to junior high school transition. Other kids are taking extra classes. I signed Xiaowei and Cece up for tutoring. Before she could finish, my brother stormed into his room and slammed the door shut. His way of rejecting the idea. My grandmother fussed. All you do is make him study. He can't even eat properly. Look how thin my precious grandson is. Is grades more important than his health? She didn't know that my brother never attended the tutoring classes and was thin because he lived on junk food. My mother looked at my father for his opinion, but he just shrugged, leaving it up to my grandmother. In the end, my mother sighed and gave in. Then Cece can come to my office after school, have dinner with me, and then go to her tutoring class. Thanks to my mother's arrangements, my grades soared. By the 6th grade, I had already completed most of the junior high school curriculum. My mother even set up a small desk in her office for me. When I wasn't in class, I would study there while she worked. I maintained this routine until I entered university. I smoothly got into a top-tier middle school, while my brother was assigned to a regular one. My grandmother was furious and glared at me. You little brat. Who knows if you cheated? I was angry. If you have bad eyesight, go see an eye doctor. Where do you see me cheating? Over the years, as I grew out of my childishness and entered my rebellious phase, arguing with my grandmother became a daily occurrence. Before she could lose her temper, Liu stepped in front of me, patting my grandmother on the back to calm her down. She's just joking, Cece. Don't take it to heart. Then she looked up at my mother and suggested, the regular middle school doesn't have good teachers, and the students there are rowdy. Why don't we send Xiaowei to a private school? My grandmother slapped her thigh. We must send him to the most expensive one. Going to a good private school is like getting one foot into Tsinghua or Peking University. She glared at me again. My mother rubbed her temples. The good private schools have been fully booked for the past 2 years. My grandmother burst into tears. My precious grandson has no school to go to. She collapsed on the sofa, sobbing and pounding her chest. My mother had no choice but to comfort her. Don't worry. I'll do everything I can. I'll pull some strings and get Xiaowei into a good school, no matter the cost. For the next half-month, my mother made countless phone calls, wined and dined people, and finally managed to get Su Wei into a prestigious private school. My grandmother was over the moon and couldn't stop bragging about her precious grandson going to a top school, while also complaining about how expensive it was. She may have been reluctant, but she couldn't go against her son's wishes. Her son said, "What's the point of making all this money if not for our grandson? It's not like we can't afford it." After entering junior high school, my relationship with my brother deteriorated rapidly. He called me by my full name at home and wild child behind my back, and I started calling him by his full name, Su Wei. One day, he was arguing with my grandmother because he wanted to buy the latest game console. My grandmother told him to ask my mother, but he insisted that she pay for it. They argued in the kitchen for a long time. My mother couldn't stand it anymore and called both of us to the living room. She said we were old enough to have our own pocket money and told us to get bank cards, and she would deposit money into them every month. Su Wei's eyes lit up. "How much will you give us?" My mother smiled lovingly. "How much do you want, Xiaowei?" Without hesitation, he said, "At least 10 or 20,000. I need to treat my friends and build my network." My grandmother praised him. "Our precious grandson is so far-sighted. He knows how to build connections even at his age. He's going to be a big CEO one day. Your mother's company will be in good hands with him." She couldn't resist taking a dig at me. "Don't be like this bookworm who only knows how to study all day." I pushed up my glasses and retorted, "Grandma, if you love Su Wei so much, you should start a company for him now and make him a CEO tomorrow. What kind of connections are those? He can't even take care of himself and just has his eyes on the family company. Is he your son or a freeloader?" My grandmother's face turned red, and she quickly tried to explain to my mother, "No, that's not what I meant." That night, Su Wei blocked my way at the door. He sneered at me, "You're just a wild child. What makes you think you can compete with me for what's mine? Everything will be mine in the end." The stench of beetle nuts wafted from his mouth. Holding back my nausea, I pushed him away and stepped back. "I don't want to compete with you. Just tell your grandmother to leave me alone." He looked me up and down, eyeing my cheap clothes. "You look so poor. Even if you have money, you don't know how to dress properly." I didn't bother to respond. I thought to myself, with his ugly appearance, even gold couldn't hide his repulsive stench. I didn't care much about material things. I'd rather spend my money on books and musicals. The more knowledge I gained, the more I understood human nature. Some people, like my mother, could energize me with just a few words, while others, like Su Wei, drained my energy with every conversation. Since getting into medical aesthetics, Liu's appearance changed dramatically every year. She had tried everything from basic photonanfu to hyaluronic acid lip fillers and Botox injections. While doing face masks together, my mother examined Liu's face carefully. "Yet, haven't you been sleeping well? Your face looks so sallow." Liu rushed to the full-length mirror and inspected her face closely. "You're right. I even have fine lines around my eyes." My mother chuckled. "We're almost 40. It's normal to have some fine lines." Liu stared at my mother's face in disbelief. "But you look like you're in your early 20s. My mother replied, "That's because I take good care of myself. I pay attention to my diet and exercise regularly. I go boxing twice a week. Her skin was fair and smooth, her figure slender and toned, and she exuded confidence and elegance in every gesture and word. Liu asked, "Haven't you had thermage or oral therapy?" My mother said, "No, but you should get them done. It's only 60,000 yuan per session and it lasts for 2 or 3 years. It's a great investment." Liu hesitated again. "It's too expensive. I'd better not." My mother was taken aback and looked at Liu in disbelief. "Go to your man. Goodness, you're the mistress. You're not foolish enough to spend your own money, are you? You have no Ming fun. He's reluctant to part with a bit of money for you. Men go bad once they have some money. Which man doesn't like beautiful women? Which man doesn't want his woman to stay young? Once you're old and fat, he'll just dump you." Realizing she might have said the wrong thing, my mother apologized. "Yeah, I didn't mean you're fat. You're not angry, are you?" Liu looked sallow. She gestured in front of the floor-to-ceiling mirror and glanced at her thick waist. Having not exercised for ages and indulging in eating and drinking at our home, her weight had soared to 160 pounds. My mother consoled her. "Being plump has its advantages. Fatness can be a sign of good fortune. I wish I had a bit of extra weight on me. Lao Su always says I'm too thin." At the mention of my father, Liu's eyes flashed with a hint of viciousness. In the following months, my father visibly lost weight. In the past, after work, he either went for a massage or joined his buddies. Now, he stayed at home after work, and even the cigarettes he smoked changed from a well-known brand to the most ordinary kind. My mother was worried. "Lao Su, why don't you get a physical examination?" My father pulled a long face. "I just want to change my lifestyle." Apart from this, there was something else that gave my father a headache. Su Wei was caught in the act of molesting a female classmate. My grandmother was furious. She went to the school and scolded the victim, saying she was shameless. "There's nothing wrong with my grandson. It must be you who seduced him, and now you're biting back." She also berated the teacher, accusing the teacher of not educating Su Wei properly. "You're a good for nothing. With a parent like you, it's no wonder your child turned out this way." The teacher, who had tried to reason with her, was so angry that she had a huge argument with my grandmother. "The upper beam is crooked, and the lower beam follows suit. With a parent like you, it's no wonder your child is like this." My grandmother turned around and pointed at the teacher. "Who do you think you are? My grandson studies in your school, and it's an honor for you. Without students like my grandson, you wouldn't even have a job teaching." Thanks to my grandmother's instigation, Su Wei became infamous. In the end, he was severely punished by the school and given a major demerit. My father spent a lot of money and effort to get the girl's family to forgive him. My father was enraged. "Can't you find a proper girlfriend?" Su Wei crossed his legs and jiggled them. "I have no money. How can I date?" "Well, give me 10,000 yuan a month, and I'll find a girlfriend and promise not to cause you any trouble." My father's eyes were wide with anger. "It's all about money. You're like a bottomless pit. No amount of money is enough for you to squander." Liu disappeared for several months. When she reappeared, she had changed completely. Her waist had become much thinner. She twirled in front of the floor-to-ceiling mirror in our house, like a butterfly. The doctor said the full effect wouldn't show until half a year after the operation. The pain of the full-body liposuction and rib removal wasn't something everyone could endure. My mother was full of surprise and clapped her hands. "The effect is already great. In half a year you'll surely amaze everyone. You can't fit into your old clothes, can you? How about we go buy new ones?" Liu couldn't hide her pride. "Of course not. They're all too big." My mother nodded. "Besides new clothes, you should also get some new jewelry and bags. Women should invest in themselves. Look, does your man love you to death now?" Liu smiled shyly and put on an act. "Oh, stop it. He said he can't live without me." She glanced at my mother. My mother didn't mince her words. "Did he say he'll marry you?" Liu's face turned ugly. "Of course he did, but he told me to wait. Let's go shopping. Today, besides new clothes and bags, I'm also going to buy new jewelry." My mother clapped her hands. "Right. Let's buy gold. The price of gold has dropped recently, and it's a great time to buy. Gold is a hard currency, and there's no mistake in buying it." Although Liu had lost weight, her face was still puffy. Her obvious double chin and the obesity of her face formed a strong sense of disharmony with her slimmer body. After entering high school, my mother was constantly worried that business was difficult and the pressure was getting greater. My father massaged my mother to help her relax and took the opportunity to suggest, "Why don't you hand over the company to me? You can return to the family and be a lady." My mother stopped her work, squinted her eyes and smiled at him. "The economy is bad, and business is tough. Are you sure you want to take over, husband? Don't you trust my ability, wife?" "Of course I trust you. Well, there's a deal recently. If you can secure it, I'll hand over the company to you." The next day my father went to negotiate. As expected, he didn't succeed. My father was just a nominal manager. He only received a salary and didn't do any real work. What ability did he have? After half a year, he didn't land a single deal. He sheepishly didn't mention the company again. Later, when my mother asked him for help, my father spread his hands. "I'm sorry, I can't help." He only wanted to receive his salary and didn't want to be involved in the work. In the 3rd year of high school, I don't know what got into Su Wei. He insisted on studying abroad. He said there was no future in studying in China, and that he wanted to go abroad to take risks while he was young. He said he had already chosen a school, which was introduced to him by someone. I took a look and found it was a Yeji University I had never heard of. My grandmother thought it made sense. Which entrepreneur hasn't studied abroad? Soaking up some foreign knowledge will make others look at you with respect. She sided with Su Wei and was willing to do anything to send her precious grandson abroad. My mother finally compromised. She sighed. All the money is tied up in the business and we can't afford it for a while. We can only mortgage the villa. My father and my grandmother fully supported this proposal. The villa was my mother's dowry and was her premarital property. Once it was mortgaged and redeemed, it would become marital property. Studying abroad was a great honor for the Su family. My grandmother insisted on throwing a farewell party for Su Wei. That night, many business partners were present. My grandmother was overjoyed and showed off in front of the guests. Our Xiaowei studied in a noble school in middle school, and now he's going to a prestigious school abroad. After soaking up some foreign knowledge, he'll learn from all of you bosses and join the company in 4 years. The son of a dragon is a dragon, and the son of a phoenix is a phoenix. Don't look at Xiaowei. He's only a high school graduate, but he's a natural at doing business. Unlike my granddaughter, she's so obsessed with studying that she's gone silly. My mother smiled and defended me. Chinzi is different from Xiaowei. Chinzi loves studying. If you don't let her study, she'll be unhappy. My grandmother gave me a look of disgust. Of course they're different. Gold shines wherever it is. I rolled my eyes. Grandma, are you getting old and losing your eyesight? It's not just gold that shines. Even glass shards can reflect light. My grandmother's face turned to itching. Can't you speak properly? I hate you so much. I sneered. I'm not living to make you like me. My grandmother was furious. You ungrateful wretch. You have no manners just like your annoying mother. The guests looked at each other awkwardly. My grandmother realized she had said the wrong thing. Her face turned red, and she stammered but couldn't say a word. My mother stood in front of me. Her eyes were red with rage. Mom, it's okay if you hate me, but please don't target the child. She's so young. Some of the guests couldn't stand it and whispered. It's better to see something once than to hear about it 100 times. I've heard that old Madame Lu is not an easy person. Mrs. Su comes from a wealthy family. Instead of pampering her, they're showing their true colors. Do they think they can discard her after using her? I never expected things to turn out like this. I was so embarrassed that I wished I could find a hole to crawl into. Li Yu, with her oddly made-up face, came over and accused me, acting like the mistress of the house. Cece, you really shouldn't have done that. Can't you see the situation? My father's face showed his embarrassment. I'm sorry to have made you all laugh. My daughter didn't do well in the college entrance examination. My wife was just trying to cheer her up. It was just a joke. Haha. Please don't mind. The lively party ended in embarrassment. A month later, Su Wei left. But less than a year later, he came back. He had been expelled for fighting. When I heard the news, I was attending classes at Peking University. I couldn't help but laugh. Sure enough, a piece of gold shines wherever it is. Not long after he got home, Su Wei started talking about starting a business. What does starting a business need? Money. He was used to spending lavishly and spent every penny he had. After running out of money, he came to me to ask for more. My grandmother was bewitched. She actually suggested handing over the company to Su Wei to manage. My mother cried for days. She said the company was in trouble and was a hot potato. Whoever took it over would be in trouble. My grandmother didn't believe it. Firstly, she didn't believe the company was losing money. Secondly, even if it was, she believed Su Wei could turn the situation around and make the company thrive. More importantly, in her eyes, the company was a golden goose that laid golden eggs. Li Yu also joined in. She said, young people have plenty of opportunities to make mistakes. The only thing to be afraid of is that the family doesn't support them. You're not short of money. Besides, as the only son, Xiaowei will take over the company sooner or later. It's better to let him get some experience now. My father had no objections. As long as it didn't affect his salary, he didn't care. Several people took turns to persuade my mother. Su Wei played the pitiful card and promised my mother that he would manage the company well. My grandmother threatened to kill herself, crying and making a scene, scolding my mother for trying to kill her grandson. Li Yu and my father took turns to persuade her. My mother couldn't resist the pressure. In the end, the company was handed over to Su Wei. The storm seemed to have passed, but an even bigger tempest was about to break out. Seeing that the housing prices were rising again and again, Zhang Wei couldn't sit still. He pulled my mother to look at houses. My mother was amused. I'll accompany you no matter what. They spent several days looking at many properties and gave a lot of suggestions. They didn't want an apartment. They didn't want a house that wasn't in a proper community. They didn't want a place with incomplete facilities. They looked at houses ranging from 80 square meters to 200 square meters and became more and more satisfied. Your man has money for you. Li Yu snorted. If you don't push him, how do you know he won't give it to you? My mother clapped her hands. You should have done this earlier. You've been with him for so many years. You've finally come to your senses. The housing market is booming. It will keep rising. If you had bought a house a few years ago, it would have doubled in value by now. Li Yu looked regretful. I didn't know it would rise so crazily. My mother walked up behind her and pointed at the show house. It's not too late to buy now. We don't even like the 10,000 square meter house. Look, at least it should be like this 200 square meter one. Li Yu was taken aback. The down payment for a 200 square meter house is a lot, isn't it? My mother had a look of disbelief. What down payment? Of course it's a full payment. You're the mistress. You've been with him for so many years. Who will compensate you for your lost youth? Seize the opportunity. Ask for as much as you can. You have no means of survival. Once the man dumps you, you'll be left with nothing. Think of your dressing room, your designer bags, and your gold. What else do you lack? You just lack a big house. Liu was convinced. Her eyes fell on the large dressing room. That's right. Don't look at the extra 100 square meters. If the housing price rises by 10,000 yuan per square meter, that's a million yuan more. Liu's man couldn't possibly come up with that much money all at once. After that, my father smoked more and more heavily every day, and his face turned darker and darker. He didn't have a good attitude towards me either. It wasn't surprising. Since the company was handed over to Su Wei, the business had been getting worse and worse, and my father hadn't received his salary for months. Su Wei said the company was short of funds and even asked my father to take out some money to support the company. At the same time, my mother and I bought several houses in Beijing, all registered in my name. At night, my mother was furious. There were surveillance cameras at home. Liu was crying and sniveling. My father smoked a cigarette and looked exhausted. I really can't afford it. You've spent hundreds of thousands of yuan on plastic surgery over the years. All the money I've saved has been squandered by you. Liu rushed up to my father and grabbed his clothes. I gave birth to your child. My body has deformed and I'm getting old. What's wrong with asking you to spend some money? My father sneered. How dare you talk about conscience? How many times has Xiaobei had a miscarriage? Do you dare to swear to God that you didn't do anything? My heart skipped a beat, and I couldn't help but look at my mother. The dim light blurred her face, but I could clearly feel her body stiffen when she heard this. Liu was speechless for a long while. Then she let out a cold snort. Do you think you're innocent? I saw with my own eyes your mother drugging others. My grandmother, who had been sitting silently by the side, now looked ashen-faced. Liu, determined to go down with everyone, said, Suong, don't think you can bully me. If you don't buy me a house, we'll go down together. At the mention of death, my grandmother panicked. No, my precious grandson is my life. She turned to my father, tugging at his sleeve almost pleadingly. Son, just buy it for her. Whatever's hers will be the child's in the end. I still have some pension savings. I'll give them to you. My father, unlike his usual spineless self, snapped. It's always about money. I said it's impossible. Liu, with tears in her eyes, accused. Suong, don't try to deceive me. I don't believe you haven't taken any money from Chen Xiaobei. She spent all her money on you, and I won't believe otherwise. My father interrupted her sharply. What about the past? If it weren't for your persistence, I would have. My grandmother slammed the table. Stop arguing. I only recognize Liu as my daughter-in-law. You have to buy this house whether you like it or not. My mother lounged on the sofa, swirling the red wine in her goblet idly. Her face was obscured and she drawled. It's almost time to close the net. After returning from Beijing, Liu excitedly told my mother that she had gotten her new house. The next step is for me to focus on nurturing the baby. Nurturing the baby? Liu nodded and smiled faintly. I'm pregnant again. Oh, this is the fourth time, isn't it? The previous 3 pregnancies ended in miscarriage for no apparent reason. My mother's eyes flickered, and she congratulated Liu profusely, urging her to take good care of this pregnancy. The next day she sent various tonics like bird's nest, fish maw, and donkey hide gelatin. My grandmother was overjoyed and supervised Liu drinking milk every day. But within a week, Liu miscarried. After this miscarriage, Liu was in a deep depression for a long time, and the way she looked at my mother became increasingly strange. On Chinese New Year's Eve, when families were supposed to be reunited, Liu burst into our house. This wasn't unusual, as she had spent previous New Year's Eves with us. But this year she held something in her hand. She threw it in front of my mother and wailed. Chen Xiaobei, I've had enough. Do you know how painful it is for me to watch your family reunion every year? It was a paternity test, specifically one between my father and Su Wei. My father panicked. As he tried to pull Liu away, he also tried to soothe my mother. Wife, listen to my explanation. Before he could finish, my mother slapped him hard. What's there to explain? Is the paternity test fake? Or is your infidelity fake? My father was stunned. This was the first time my mother had ever laid a hand on him. Liu shrieked and rushed to protect my father. How dare you hit him? I'll hit both of you, you despicable pair. My mother, with red-rimmed eyes, grabbed everything within reach and hurled it at them. Hearing the commotion, my grandmother rushed out. Suddenly overcome with bravado, she pushed my mother down and shouted, Bitch! How dare you hit my son? My mother, who had endured for so many years, finally found an outlet for her pent-up anger. She pounced on my grandmother, grabbing her hair. You overprotective mother. I've hated you for a long time. I wanted to step in and help, but my mother stopped me with a look. My grandmother tried to resist, but my mother's boxing skills weren't for naught. She subdued them in a few moves. We're getting a divorce. This is non-negotiable. My grandmother retorted defiantly. Who cares? Whoever backs out is a coward. She pushed my father towards my mother. Son, divorce this woman today. My father looked at my grandmother helplessly and then at my mother. Xiaobei, I can't stand this life anymore. Let me go. My mother didn't even glance at my father. She stood up and pointed at them. All of you, get out of my house right now. My grandmother sneered, hands on her hips. You leave if you want. I'll die here before I leave this place. The villa was my mother's dowry, her premarital property. Fine. I won't stoop to your level. My mother promptly called me, grabbed her bag and left. Throughout this farce, Su Wei stood on the second floor watching coldly. I, too, watched expressionlessly as he left the villa. My mother looked back, furrowing her brows, her eyes filled with confusion and determination. I walked up to her. "Mom, are you okay?" My mother looked at me, suddenly smiled, and let out a long sigh. "It's finally over." I smiled too. Yes, it's finally over. The divorce proceedings went surprisingly smoothly. My father's side demanded the villa and the company, and an equal division of property. But he had already spent all his money on Liu to buy the house, so there was little left to divide. My mother refused, and the case went to court. In court, my mother submitted evidence of my father's infidelity. My father vehemently denied it and even accused my mother of cheating. It wasn't until my mother presented the paternity test between him and Su Wei that he fell silent. The villa hadn't been mortgaged. My mother had sold it long ago. Since it was her premarital property, my father had no claim to it. As for cash, investments, and other assets, my mother transferred everything to me. The company went to Su Wei and I got the cash. Since my father was at fault, the court ruled in my mother's favor without any further asset disputes and finalized the divorce on the spot. After obtaining the divorce certificate, my mother sued both Liu and my father. She accused my father of using marital property to support Liu, buying her a house, luxury goods, and jewelry. She demanded that Liu return all the items and the money spent. Liu insisted that the money was earned by herself, but my mother calmly presented transfer records, purchase receipts, and even Liu's detailed consumption lists. The court quickly ruled that Liu must return all the property, the house, and repay all the expenses. On the day of taking back the house, it was chaotic. My grandmother resorted to her old tricks, throwing tantrums, pushing, and hitting the law enforcement officers. In the end, she was carried out by them. My mother recorded the scene with her phone, watching them coldly. My father, looking haggard, remained silent. "Chen Xiaobei, do you just want to see me suffer?" Liu lunged at my mother but missed. "Why should I want you to be happy? Your happiness was built on my pain. I treated you like a sister, but what did you do? You stole my husband, spent my money, and made me raise your child. You have no conscience at all." Liu retorted angrily. "You're so rich. What's wrong with spending a little? Do you think I could have stolen your husband if he didn't want to be stolen?" My mother gently pushed her towards my father and said calmly, "So, I'm Cheng Chenyu. You always said Lao Su was a promising man. Now he's all yours. I earned all the money in this family, and I'm just taking back what's mine. From now on you can have him and I'll have the money. We're even." My father, looking pale, pleaded, "We were husband and wife. There's some affection left. Why be so harsh?" My mother retorted, "How much love was there? Love enough to sleep with my best friend? Love enough to watch your mother drug me to cause miscarriages? Or love enough to make me raise your illegitimate son?" Putting away her phone, my mother stood in front of my father. "Suong, you betrayed our relationship first. You have no right to lecture me. Your family schemed against me, wanting my house, my money, my company, and to drive me out. Fine, I gave you everything. But can you really handle it? There's a price to pay for coveting others' things. You should be grateful I showed mercy." My mother glanced at me and continued, "My original plan was to burn you all down and die together. I heard piecemeal news later. Liu and Suong quarreled every day, fighting over who should go out to find a job. Suong even disfigured Liu by knocking her facial implants out of place. Liu, unable to afford proper plastic surgery, injected cheap, unregulated substances, which left her severely disfigured. My grandmother and Liu had a huge falling out over the money from my grandmother's pension that was used to buy the house. They cursed each other in public, making a spectacle, and the company, under Su Wei's efforts, finally went bankrupt. But having lived a life of luxury, he couldn't bear the poverty. Just a month later, he was imprisoned for theft. As the saying goes, the wicked will be punished by fate. 3 months later, my mother opened a new company, and many of her old clients followed her. On a spring day with blooming grass and flying on my mother's birthday, I asked her what wish she had made. She laughed heartily. "I wish for a peaceful life, for every act to leave a good mark, and for gentle encounters whenever I look up." Finally, I saw the bright smile on my mother's face that I hadn't seen for so long. Chen Xiaobei worked hard all her life but eventually died of gastric cancer. Before her death, she discovered that the son she had been so proud of was actually the illegitimate child of her best friend and her husband. By her bedside, her best friend held her husband and son, looking blissfully happy. "Xiaobei, we should thank you for all your hard work. The fortune you left will last us a lifetime. Our family of 3 will always be grateful to you." Her spineless husband finally showed some backbone. "Don't worry. We'll burn plenty of paper money for you." Her son urged impatiently, "Mom, Dad, hurry up. I'm an outstanding graduate today and need to go on stage. I can't be late." Before leaving, her best friend turned back and whispered so only they could hear, "Oh, and by the way, do you know why you kept having miscarriages? It's because I and Suang's mother drugged you." Then she smiled maliciously. Chen Xiaobei stared at her wide-eyed. She wanted to curse but was too weak. A surge of anger welled up in her chest and lingered. Finally, her vision went black. When she woke up, she had returned to the age of 30. By then, she had already experienced several miscarriages and was deemed infertile by doctors. She had been married to Suong for 3 years but had endured 3 miscarriages. Her mother-in-law was extremely dissatisfied, constantly hinting that since Suang's father had died early, the family line couldn't end with him. After her 3rd miscarriage, her mother-in-law brought back a newborn baby boy, saying that a relative couldn't afford to raise the child. "I think your inability to carry a baby is because you did too many bad deeds in your past life. By raising this child, maybe you'll be blessed with your own child in the future." Her failure to carry a child had always haunted her, and she felt deeply guilty towards the Su family. Out of gratitude, she gave them whatever they wanted, materially spoiling Suong. She named the child Su Wei, hoping he would grow up to be an educated and refined person. She treated Su Wei as her own, and both her mother-in-law and Suong doted on him. Even her best friend, Li Yu, adored Su Wei. Li Yu claimed to be a non-believer in marriage. When Chen Xiaobei urged her to find a partner, Li Yu said, "Your child is my child. I'll pour all my love into him." At the time, Chen Xiaobei was deeply moved. She arranged for Li Yu and Suong to work in her company, essentially giving them nominal positions with salaries but no real work. She thought that if she treated others sincerely, they would do the same. But she was wrong. They were like wolves eyeing her fortune. This time she decided to settle the score. She let her mother-in-law spoil Su Wei and no longer paid close attention to his well-being. She could never forget the hatred in Su Wei's eyes as he shouted at her, "I hate you for forcing me to study. I hate you even more for existing and preventing me from being with my real parents. I wish you were dead 10,000 times over." What had she done wrong? Was it her fault for being rich and capable of making money? They had schemed against her, and in the end they got the money while she was blamed. She was consumed by hatred. What hurt her more than Su Ang's infidelity was Li Yu's betrayal. Li Yu, the best friend she had trusted, had praised her marriage countless times, saying Suong was a good man. But she didn't know that Su Ang's docile nature was a result of years of suppression by his mother. He didn't even dare to raise his voice to his mother. Chen Xiaobei didn't care when the two had started their affair. Since Li Yu wanted Suong, she could have him. In her past life, she had been blindly in love. Her parents had left her a large fortune when they died, so she wasn't short of money but desperately craved a loving family. She had been morally manipulated by Suong time and time again, feeling guilty for not being able to have children and believing she had to compensate his family. Exhausted from overwork, she handed over the company to Suong. Before Su Wei graduated, she gave him the villa as a graduation gift. In the end, all her efforts had been in vain. Since she couldn't have children in this life, she decided to enjoy the process of revenge. Adopting Chun, she was an accident. She had gone to an orphanage to deliver supplies and saw a little girl being bullied. The girl was around 5 years old, about the same age as Su Wei. Her clothes were old but clean. Despite being on the verge of tears from the bullying, she hugged her doll tightly and stood up for herself. When she saw Chen Xiaobei, she sat down and burst into tears, recounting the ordeal. In that moment, Chen Xiaobei saw herself before marriage brave, determined, and resourceful. Since she couldn't have her own child, adopting this girl seemed like a good choice. She named her Chen Shi, hoping she would bring light to her gloomy future like the morning sun. Without Chen Shi, she would have gone to extreme lengths to take revenge, framing Li Yu and even considering going down with the Su family. But Chen Shi, like a little angel, always looked at her with trust and called her Mom sweetly. "Mom, I missed you. Mom, I want to learn the piano. Mom, can you teach me to write?" When the little girl asked tearfully, "Mom, am I not your child?" Chen Xiaobei knew that she was her child, the last vestige of her kindness, her salvation. In the warm spring of February, as she strolled through the streets of Beijing, she finally realized that she had been reborn not for revenge but for happiness. The end.